guys, welcome to my channel, Statements by a Rainbow and a Rainbow. So in this story, we will be talking about 2-year-old GLENARA Bates, who was born in January of 2013. Unfortunately, GLENARA passed away March 29th, 2015. And this story is out of Cincinnati. GLENARA was born to a mother who already had cases that dated back to 2007, in which a child was born who had illegal substances in their system. And then in 2009, a child was taken to the hospital who had bruises to their neck, their eye, and the back of their legs, and they could barely walk. Now, her mother wasn't arrested. She was taken to a mental hospital, stating that she dealt with severe depression and bipolar. GLENARA was her mother's 7th child, and I did say 7th, and she was born at 34 weeks at 4 pounds and 3 ounces. Her mother did not receive any prenatal care, and as well, GLENARA had illegal substances in her system too. So she had weak reflexes, which indicated a certain growth restriction. I'm going to put the word right there of the exact restriction they said it was. GLENARA was immediately put in foster home with her 4 other siblings with the couple. GLENARA did begin to thrive being in the home with the couple at 8 months. She was weighing 20 pounds. The family did wanted to adopt GLENARA as well as the other children because they felt like the mother wouldn't recover. But the court ruled all 5 children to go back into the home, given that they had been monitoring the mom and she had started doing better. So they was impressed with her recovery and ordered 3 months of supervised monitoring. The foster parents did beg for the children not to go back, but since they had to go, that they did promise that they will always visit. By 2014, GLENARA had become the parents' target, not the other children. In 2014, the foster parents stuck to their word, and around Christmas time did go to visit, in which they were bringing Christmas gifts. When they went to the door, no one came to answer, but one of the older children could be seen staring out the window, and they looked very lifeless, and they stared. The foster mother had put in a report with CPS, which that report, it took months before it was even looked into. In that same month of December of 2014, GLENARA had been taken to the hospital, in which GLENARA weighed less than what she did before, in which, like I told you earlier, she was weighing 20 pounds. Now she was weighing 17 pounds. It was signs of being malnutrition due to, at her age, she should have been at least average of 26 pounds. GLENARA couldn't walk, even though she should have been able to walk due to her muscles, due to the starvation. GLENARA was diagnosed with failure to thrive and was given Romans 4 fluids and kept in the hospital. She was in the hospital for 10 days until she started to thrive, and the only diagnosis, or recommendations I should say, that they gave the mother was to feed her more. There was no report sent to authorities. Eventually, CPS did came due to the foster parents' reports. When CPS came, they said she looked happy and healthy. It went from simple neglect at this time to cruelty. One of GLENARA's sisters stated that the parents hated GLENARA, especially the mother. Shortly after that CPS visit, GLENARA was taken to the hospital with no signs of life, cold and pale. GLENARA had numerous scars and skin damage in various places, and she was very small for her age. She looked it more as a 6-month-old than a 2-year-old, with only weighing 12 to 13 pounds. GLENARA was forced to live entirely into a bathroom. There was feces and blood around the tub, and there was as well as scratches around the tub, evidence of showing that she had been trying to escape. There was burns along the tub, which showed repeatedly hot scalding water had been placed inside. She wasn't allowed a blanket, which there were cold nights, which led to GLENARA having frostbite on her toes. When the family ate dinner, she had to remain in the bathroom, which was her prison. The mom said that was because she made a mess. Times the family would leave the home, and yet GLENARA still remained in the bathroom alone, with maybe one can of food. The other children stated that GLENARA at best might have ate once a day. And times it was just scraps of food. She would times lick the scraps off the floor like she was a little dog. At 2 years old, barely could stand and couldn't walk. Her hair was falling out due to protein deficiency. The back of her legs had crisscross marks, which looked it due to being beat by a belt. They were going into different directions. Some were fresh, some were old. Missing 3 teeth, which 2 were the front teeth, which clearly indicated they had been knocked out because no 2-year-old teeth just come out. GLENARA had been bitten, which her dad did admit that he would play a game called Doggy Gonna Get You. He would bite and shake GLENARA. The sisters stated that on March the 28th, the dad had grabbed GLENARA by the legs and forcefully smashed her head into the wall downstairs in the hallway of the house. GLENARA had cried for a few minutes, then stopped. There was a deep wound that had formed on her head, but instead of being taken to the hospital, the mother took a regular piece of thread and needle that you would use for your clothing and sewed the wound. The next morning, GLENARA was found cold and with blue lips. When the dad talked about how she was found, he talked with no emotion. The dad had been interrogated by 2 different officers 3 different separate times and had been shown pictures. The autopsy showed battered child syndrome with acute chronic intracranial hemorrhages and starvation as a cause of death. The coroner said that this was the worst case of starvation that they had seen and that GLENARA had been tortured majority of her short little life. Correction, her short, pitiful life. She had air in her small bowel and no urine in her bladder. And they wasn't sure when the last time she had food or something to drink. The parents were arrested the same day. They were charged with first-degree unaliving, aggravated unaliving, and child endangerment. The dad's stories kept changing. He kept blaming the mother. He only admitted to that game, Doggy Gonna Get You, which included biting his daughter. The dad stated that he woke up that morning and the mother had said that GLENARA wouldn't wake up. And then he admitted to holding her by her feet high in the air, alleging he was playing and swinging her and her shoes that came off her feet. They were tried in Ohio, so they both faced the death penalty. In October of 2016, Dad's trial began and he was found guilty of aggravated unaliving and was sentenced to death. He showed no emotion in the verdict, but his mother spoke saying that he wasn't a murderer and that God blessed her with her son. His attorney continues to blame the mother, stating that the dad had only lived in the home for about a week. He had spent most of his time at his mother's house. His mother stated she would be sticking by her son's side, clearly. During Glenara's mother trial, she stated it doesn't matter what she wanted, give the world what they wanted, which was the death penalty, so give her the death penalty. She didn't care. When being escorted out of the courtroom, she had an outburst. God bless everybody and their families. She was yet again pregnant in her late stages of her pregnancy of her eighth child. She didn't stand trial. She gave birth to the 8th child in prison. Her attorney fought for her that she couldn't be sentenced to death due to, which is below the threshold of 70. She agreed to a plea deal with no consent, so she was sentenced to 15 to life in prison. Despite the dad's death sentence, he avoided execution and appealed the case, alleging the trial wasn't a fair one, stating a white juror wasn't questioned who had already showed signs of racism during the jury questionnaire. In 2023, the dad accepted a new plea deal with 25 years and receiving 8 years already served. 2 social workers had resigned and 2 supervisors had been suspended. The grandmother had filed a lawsuit, and their foster parents wondered if GLENARA stayed in their home, how would things turned out. They often visit her gravesite, and the foster parents keep a picture of her in their home. That's the story of GLENARA. I truly wonder, what was it about her? They had so many children. What was it about her that they felt the need to torture a baby? It kind of made me think about, in my opinion, was the dad really the dad, or was it by somebody else that there was some type of resentment? You know, granted, she ain't treat none of the kids well, but you know, you seen she had prior cases that there was some abuse, but I'm not sure if it was that young, you know. So what was it about her, and especially if the other kids were going places and they left her home? What was it about that baby that, you know, and if you felt that strong just about her, why not just leave her in the foster care, in the foster family, you know, and take the kids, the other kids that I guess you so-called like or whatever, keep them. So it doesn't make sense. And then the dad putting most of the blame on the mom. You just saying the only thing you did was that gang. Bullcrap. And I get that the older child stated that the mother really didn't like her. But even if that so-called gang that dad was calling himself to play, you didn't stop your woman from doing this to your baby. So 2 sickos, and it's unfortunate that they had to go through this. And on the flip side of things, it took this baby life to save her siblings, unfortunately. And it's even more unfortunate that she had to pass, and there's another sibling under her, which thankfully and hopefully will never know the abuse of at least the parents, and hopefully nobody else. If you fed up, drop the child off at the fire station, drop them off at the church, drop them off at a friend, call 911, do something. But don't keep these kids and then want to cause harm to them. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe.